You called Apocalypse Now the greatest movie ever made.
Correctly, I labeled it as such, yeah.
What makes it that for you?
There's no computers involved. The elements that had to be endured, the performances, the storytelling, the insanity, the fact that every time you see it, you see something different, something new, or something affects you differently. It's a film that could never be made today. And if it did, we would feel the helicopters wouldn't have any weight. You know, they try to do this thing. I went to the movies years ago and I saw the latest King Kong thing version, and they try to do an apocalypse thing, sweeping through these jungles and and it just wasn't. I mean, yeah, it looked cool, but I knew that nobody's life was in danger. Yeah, and just the country's in the middle of a civil war. You know, Dad has a heart attack. Brando shows up, 300 pounds. I mean, it was just like one thing after another, and how Francis kept it together, and he shot 1 million feet of film, and that's like actual film. And somebody's going through in an editing room in the frickin' jungle, There's some story somebody told me about a lady that he had a meeting with or had a night with or something, and she left with 2 reels of film during Apocalypse and held it hostage and said, unless this or this happens, you're not getting those canisters back. But those are just some of the reasons why I place Apocalypse atop that mantle,
You said Brando's brain was kind of wired differently.
Yeah, it was.
From your kind of experience, what did you see?
As an 11-year-old or a 10-year-old,
right.
He did that thing where he could draw a circle in the air with one hand while drawing a square on his chest with the other at the same time. And then he would say, change, and then that would become the square, and this would become the circle. And have you ever tried doing that?
No.
It's literally impossible, and he just did it effortlessly, which showed that somehow, however it's wired in his, I think Sean described it as the muscle on the top floor. His top floor was pretty magical. And it was a trip to experience that at that age. And I do write in the book that I think he liked children better than adults because he was pretty convinced that they understood him better.
What made, was it called Hearts of Darkness?
Yeah, the documentary.
What made that so hard to watch for you?
Because it was the first time that anybody peeked behind that curtain. And I don't know how I phrased it in the book, that it was Francis's wife, it was Eleanor, and something about put Dad's, I don't know if I used the word trauma, his behaviors, whatever, on full display for the world to consume, or to finally consume. And that included us. Because if you weren't in the room, you didn't know. And so we saw that, and it was like, oh, damn, it went there,
Like what were you seeing, and it was
I could see that it had nothing to do with the scene. It had nothing to do with any of the, whatever the goals were cinematically or creatively for that particular day. It had everything to do with his father, because he had died close to that, or not long after, not long before that. And so I think he was mourning him and just feeling, there's something also about being that freaking far from home, and that isolated and that detached. There's a feeling of and I've experienced myself as well, that things are, you get a little more sensitive to stuff that wouldn't affect you as deeply back on the home front.
Why do you think that is?
Because help is a long ways away. It's just how I see it. So I think that there was a combination of the stress of the movie, the loss of his father, tons of booze, obviously, but I think the booze unlocks things that are already sort of brewing or percolating, or needing some type of release,
You wrote about your dad. His body may have been with us. The guy we called Dad was not.
Yeah.
Elaborate a little bit on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that was specifically referring to his birthday, his 36th, I think it was, during Apocalypse. Yeah, and we didn't know what we were rolling into. We were just gonna, show up on his lunch break and just cut the cake and give him a hug and cut out, But that's the day they were filming that famous hotel opening sequence, That's another thing about Apocalypse. Like, start a movie like that. Like, go ahead. Like, set a movie up like that, and then it's like you've made a promise to the audience that this is, all right, here's what you're in for, and you have to deliver on just that experience that you've just witnessed in the first 5 minutes, It's pretty heady stuff, isn't it?